we are so excited to hear from Dr. Eugene Saunders. He is one of our adjunct professors here at TKU, but you will see him in person in our hallways. He teaches in person and he also teaches online. He's an expert in this field and he is an incredible resource. Dr. Saunders, I've had the privilege of speaking with him and he's all about you guys being set up well. So if any of you see him in person or virtually along these halls, please connect with him. Again, he's a wealth of knowledge. He's also a pastor and has been serving in a pastoral role.
Thank you so much. And Alika, thank you for inviting me to have this opportunity to talk with folks. I think one of the most important things that I want to communicate, just as Alika emphasized how they are there to serve and support you. So as an instructor and as a professor, that's my heart too. I want to help you as much as we can. I want to help you with everything that God is calling you to do and to be and to accomplish. I was asked to kind of answer some questions with regards to working with technology and both what we can do to be successful. I'm trying to eliminate that light behind me. Looks like I have a halo. Trust me, I don't. Anyway, so I want to communicate with you with hopefully some help. Now, some of the stuff I'm going to communicate is going to be real basic, and so forgive me. This is not in any sense me trying to speak down to you or in any way, just say something that just seems like such a given. But at the same time, there are times that a statement can be made, basic as it is, it will reinforce an idea that you've had. And maybe that reinforcement will be enough to be able to help you just kind of make the transition and the change that needs to be made. So I'm going to share my screen because I do have a PowerPoint presentation I put together. So first of all, what does it mean to be an online student? Well, there are two ways that you may be with us online. One, you may have signed up as a OnGround student, and because of the current environment that we have, you are now, learning as a virtual student. So you're doing this, what we call synchronistic. You're doing it at the same exact time as everybody else. So you are learning in the classroom as the classroom is being presented. There may be, as time goes on, there will be rotations perhaps in some classrooms where there will be some people sitting out and others present. And so there will be, a number of things that will be happening where you might find yourself in a virtual circumstance. So that is what we would, as I said, it's synchronistic learning, and that is that you're attending it at the same time that the class is being offered. The other way, of course, is asynchronistic, which means that the class is either being recorded and you're watching it later at your own convenience within a specific time frame, or you're taking it only online and therefore you're on Blackboard and responding to questions and watching videos and so forth. So those are two ways that you may be experiencing the online and virtual category for us here, or with us here. On the asynchronistic, one of the things I think is really important if you're an online student, and I refer to this more for the asynchronistic, those that are online only. Not that these aren't valuable suggestions and tips for those that are doing the synchronistic or the virtual, using Zoom and being a part of the classroom. But a lot of that time is already set for you. You know that you're going, if you have a class that starts at 10:15 or 11:15, you know that you're going to be there. Not so easy with online only, because online only, well, you get to choose the time. And one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is that once you've signed up for a class and you begin to process what it means to actually be an online student, make sure that you set a time, set a schedule. Imagine that every 3-credit class is going to be anywhere from 9 to 12 hours a week. And so you want to make sure that you set that aside weekly per class. You want to make sure that you've set that time aside, as well as scheduling specific time that you're going to be online. Now, clearly asynchronistic, you get to set the time, but do set the time. It's really important. Don't just leave it to, well, I'll get to it when I can this week. You want to set the time so that you know that you've got the time to really focus on this. Again, I apologize for how basic this may be, but take a look at the syllabus, write it off, okay? And the lesson schedule. Once you get those in your hands, or have the ability to get them, either to download them or print them out, take a look at what is actually going to be required. One of the things that I encourage all of my students to do, look at the assignments and look at their point values. So often a research paper in one of my classes will be worth a great percentage of the final grade, and people will wait to do it to the very last. When the research paper can be really, you can begin it usually right away with regards to formatting, with creating your bibliography, depending on the assignment, but it is something that you can begin. And I want to encourage you, and we'll talk about that a little bit more specifically, but I want to encourage you to take a look at that syllabus, look at what your projects and your assignments are going to be, so that you can begin to process that. Make a plan. Make a plan. And then stay with it. Especially when you're an asynchronistic learner, it is easy to put it off, right? I will get to it later. Oh, this has come up, I'll get to it later. Stay with the plan. Write it out, stay with it, discipline yourself to stay with it. Don't justify or self-justify or make excuses, because once you start doing that, it just goes downhill from there, okay? Because more and more excuses will come up, and the more you will put off the actual time to be online. Virtual learning in the synchronistic format, you may not be able to put it off as easily, because in your mind, you've got a class you've got to attend, and oftentimes the communication of assignments and due dates might be repeated in those formats, whereas in the asynchronistic, they are often not repeated. There's the expectation that you're looking at the syllabus and that you see the assignment due dates and descriptions. So don't self-justify. Get started. I want to say this: if you've got a writing project due, or after you've looked at what the assignments are going to be, if there's things that you can get started on, like the writing project, get started on it. What can you do if you perhaps know that you're going to need more information as the class goes on before you can really write a lot? Well, one, you can create your cover page. Okay, get that out of the way. That's a wonderful thing to get to have done. Make sure you've got the correct course on it. Make sure that that your formatting is right, and begin the formatting for the paper. You can do that right away. You can start your bibliography. One of the things that you can do is look at the textbooks. More than likely, you're going to use something from the textbooks that you've been assigned in your research paper or in your writing project, so you can start your bibliography. And so often this, again, is put off until the very end, and then people scramble trying to put that together when you could have started it really right away. If there's something that seems ambiguous about questions or about assignments, this is a good time to ask right at the beginning so that you get clarification. Now, sometimes obviously that ambiguous circumstance, or it won't be as clear that it's ambiguous until later on, but the things that do come to your attention, make sure that you ask those questions right away. By the way, as a professor, I appreciate that. I appreciate when those things are brought to my attention, especially if something is ambiguous, so I can either straighten the language out or I can clarify for all the students. More than likely, you're not the only one dealing with that question, okay? And as many times as I tweak my instructions class after class, there are still things that are ambiguous, and I understand that. So make sure to communicate with me. Review the requirements. Review the requirements on your project as often, I would say regularly, review those requirements, because the more you remind yourself about the project or the writing assignment. A lot of it's being done here, right? A lot of it's being done in your head already. So the more you remind yourself about what those requirements are, the more you're able to process this and the more you're able to write when it comes time to write. So remind yourself about those things regularly. You can also contact, of course, Student Success, and they will be able to help you get your formatting right, answer a lot of questions, clear up ambiguity if it exists with regards to formatting, and assist you to find things like, the library can, especially from our Blackboard, you have a link there to the library. You can get style guides, you can get the formatting, template. All those things are available to you. And I just want to encourage you, make sure that you're communicating with people that can help you out. In fact, one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to create a team of people, and I'll talk about that in just a moment as well, but to create a team of people that will work with you. You know what? Student Success is a great part of that team because they know stuff. They know where to go. They know how to point you in the right direction. They know, this is a little secret, they even know your professors. So sometimes if we haven't been clear on something, they know, and they are able to kind of resolve some of those things. Now, I hope I'm not putting too much pressure on you, Alika, but really they do know. They've been around with us and they have helped. So really it is important. Now, again, this is a real basic thing. Make sure to create a workspace for yourself. Now, I would say whether you're a virtual learning or a virtual learner or online student, it makes sense to create yourself a workspace. And again, I realize that this is super basic, but I want to encourage you, if maybe you just haven't had either the courage or the time to set something up so that you can say, hey, this is going to be my workspace. I'm going to be in this workspace from this time to this time, inform your family or other people in the household so that they're able to give you that time. Does that make sense? In your workspace, put supplies. You don't want to have to go searching your whole house or wherever you're at for those supplies once you have sat down to do your work. You want to be able to use that time as much as possible. I also encourage having a notebook, something old school perhaps, that you can write and make some notes. Some Post-its are great. Things like that you can just, make notes and remind yourself of things. It's amazing what can be done by just, or memory-wise, what can be done by just having a notebook to scribble those things down. All right. Also in your workspace, this is a suggestion. I understand. I'm not trying to, destroy an entire forest, but I like the idea of having your syllabi printed out so that you don't have to wait for, your computer to fire up to be able to look on it. One of my friends said, "What computer? I'm always using my phone." Well, that's probably a good point, and I'm maybe a little bit behind, but I do like to have it printed out just so that I can grab it real quick and resolve questions that I might have, either about due dates or about what it is that I'm expecting to do. Again, this has to do with the assignment instructions. I also like to have them printed out. And sometimes I'll just put them in a 3-ring binder for that class, put it right there on my desk or my workspace, and I'm able to grab that 3-ring binder. By the way, the workspace obviously can just be a kitchen table. I mean, there's so many things, but you can, if you have a notebook or a 3-ring binder where you're keeping these things in, I think they can be very helpful for you so that you know how to grab or where it's at to grab it and just review it real quick. Again, very simplistic. I apologize again. I don't mean to insult you, but just some ideas to help you do that. And again, like I said, a written notebook, notepad, and then a calendar and schedule. I think it's a really good idea to have a calendar and schedule there so that you can refer to often so that you know when things are due, and there isn't that panic in the middle of the night. Wait a minute, was that due this today? You'll rest a lot easier if you know that it wasn't. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the virtual learning. One, I want to encourage you in virtual learning in the Zoom environment, be vocal. get involved. Get involved. I try to encourage my classes that are virtual to actually just, unless they've got a lot of ambient noise, just go ahead and, speak up every opportunity you get, because I want to hear from you. When I make my jokes, which are usually quite dry, in fact, so dry that my mother refers to them as being arid, I want to hear people laugh. So I say unmute. In fact, I even told my last class, I said, if you didn't laugh, you're going to be the next one reading. So they unmute and they laugh for me. Now, some of the laughter is a bit fake. I have to deal with that because my jokes aren't that good. But speak up in class. And as I said, don't leave your mute button on unless you're instructed or you have a lot of ambient noise. If there's a lot of noise in the background, clearly you need to be able to resolve that and cut that down. But one of the things I'll tell you will make your Zoom involvement or your Zoom class go so much better is you being involved, you being a part of it, really being a participant. And it's hard because it's so easy to leave it on mute. It is so easy to, and then to turn your camera off and then disappear, because you're just, especially if it's a morning class or an early morning class and you think, I'm going to attend in my pajamas, so I'm going to keep my mic or my video off. I saw a commercial recently where the pajamas were on the lower part, but the upper part was all dressed for business. Well, do that if you need to, because it's good to have your camera on. The Zoom chat box is not a great way to get the professor's attention, okay? So if you've got a question, please, I understand because we are kind of brought up, or there's so many here, especially at TKU, that are so courteous. They think, I'll just type it in there so I'm not interrupting anything. Problem is, I don't see it, especially if I'm doing a presentation like this. I want to see your faces. I don't see the chat. Now, I do get a little notification that a chat has been put in, but then I have to pause and click on that and open it up and see what it is. And usually I'm thinking about, what's coming next with regards to the slide and how I can communicate it better. So my encouragement to you is not to use the chat to talk to your professor specifically, because it is very difficult. Now, some professors may do a whole lot better than I do on that, but that is a personal thing for me. And I know a number of other instructors who have the same issue. They can't see the chat or they're not able to, multitask in that way. All right. It's real important to stay motivated. No matter whether you're virtual and you're kind of tired of staring at the same walls, whether it's synchronistic or asynchronistic, it's really important to stay motivated. And so one of the most important things I can say to you about this is remember where God is calling you. Remember what this is about. Don't get lost in, kind of just the movement of things, the inertia of things. Don't get lost in all of that. Remember where it is that God is calling you. Remember what the end goal is. So remember what he is teaching you. And also remember the growth that you've already experienced in both his spirit and word. I hear a number of testimonies from students who talk about the things that God is teaching them and that the miracles and even the confirmation for their calling and preparation, or even the confirmation in the call to come here as a student to learn and prepare for what it is that God has called them to. Those things are exciting, and it's wonderful to be excited about that. So remember those things. Also remember he is always faithful. So remember he's called you to this journey and commit to finishing it. There are, and I don't want to say this in any way that sounds like it's self-serving, but there are always going to be multiple either opportunities or avenues to distract you. you've started this. I assume you started it with a great deal of prayer. I assume you started it asking the Lord where you should go to school, where you should do this matriculation process, the maturation that is happening with you. None of this is in any way a mistake. God knows. He knows where he has set you. So my encouragement to you is finish what you've started. Commit to it. Don't give up. Even if it gets hard, even if you get, classmates that perhaps your personality doesn't mesh with, those can be growth opportunities. Even if you get instructors that your personality doesn't match with, those are growth opportunities. And it isn't any mistake that God knows where you're at. And I'm not saying that an instructor doesn't need to grow, and he does or she does. So some of those changes are also happening with us, but I want to encourage you, stick to the process, grow. Don't take the first avenue or opportunity or distraction, or even somebody, somehow where it says, well, I can get here in a shorter way. Make sure you pray about that, because God has called you to this moment and to this time. Don't abandon the call he's giving you. Finish it. And I would say, most importantly, ask for his help. Ask for his help. And I put that last, not because in any way that it lacks priority. If anything, I put it last because I want you to remember that most of all. Ask for his help. Also tell you, give thanks for what he's done, what he's doing. I know the journey is not easy. And by the way, he never said it would be. But he did promise his presence. He promised he would be with us. Also encourage you, rejoice in the opportunities you are given to study and prepare for the call he has placed upon your life. Not everybody has this opportunity. Not everybody has been given this. This is a very unique, wonderful blessing that you're a part of. I'm not telling you everything is perfect. That would be wrong. But I am telling you, you are a part of this process intentionally. I want to encourage you to stay committed. I want to encourage you to give thanks for what it is that he's given you in this time. All right, now some questions come up about how to connect best with your instructor. Malika, am I doing okay on time? Okay. What are the best ways to connect with your instructor? Well, first of all, whether it's synchronistic or asynchronistic, ask the professor and instructor at the beginning of the class. Well, don't you love my typo there, at the beginning? Let's just do one at the beginning. At the beginning of the class, ask the instructor, what is the best way or preferred way to connect with you? I encourage you to do that, because something is going to come up where you have a question and you want to know, does he or she prefer email? Do they prefer a text? And I want to encourage you that when you either text or email, make sure you tell them which class you're in. And if it's text, make sure you tell them your name, because all we get is a phone number, right? So ask the professor about that. I'm going to say that as a general rule, those emails that you've sent on questions should be responded to in about 24 hours. Now, listen, 24 hours is a long time if you're taking a 7-week class and you've got assignments due and you're trying to do that. That is a long time to wait. So I would encourage you that if you have emailed, or if the preferred way is through email, or maybe it's a discussion box that the professor would like you to type your question into. If you haven't had a response in about 24 hours, try another method. Go ahead and use the text. Most of us have our phone numbers on the syllabus. We've done that for a reason, okay? It's so that if there's an issue, you can get a hold of us. Now, life happens, and I realize that as a student, you want to be courteous. You don't want to be offensive in any way or rude. But again, if if the email or the contact hasn't been responded to within 24 hours, I think it's appropriate to follow up with another means. Okay. Again, we're here because we want to serve you. So if we've missed an email, something has happened, that a message has come across and we haven't had the opportunity to respond, we want to do that. And so make sure that you do a follow-up. Also, I want to encourage you, we also have often have office hours listed on our syllabus, on the syllabi. Take a look at those and see if there's a way that you can connect with us through that means. Okay. On writing and reading. One, when you get your books, my encouragement to you, open them. Okay. Told you this was real basic, right? Almost offensively basic. Open the books. See what they're about. See what the table of contents about. Sometimes, oftentimes that title does not tell you where you're going, but the table of contents will. Okay. And I really encourage you, open them up right away when you get them. Get yourself familiar with them. Schedule your reading. Just like your work, schedule reading. A reading schedule is often available on the syllabus itself. So put that into your schedule if you can, or at least make sure that you have it readily accessible to you. I want to encourage you to enlist proofreaders. These are people who can read your document for you with a fresh set of eyes. And because so often when we read a document, we've been working with a document over and over again, our mind fills in the blanks, corrects spelling, puts in an extra apta, right? A proofreader wouldn't have caught that. Believe it or not, I did have a proofreader, but I put the apta after the proofreader. So that's something you don't want to do. All right. So enlist proofreaders, yes, I'm owning that mistake. It was completely mine. But enlist proofreaders. I want to tell you, build a community of partners in this process. It can also be an avenue that God is opening up to minister to some of those people. Okay. Some of your proofreaders may be people that don't have a real strong relationship with the Lord, or perhaps there's something that will be communicated through your work to them that they really will need to hear. So, ask the Holy Spirit to connect you with the right people to partner or be a part of that partnership team. Maybe they'll only be a part for a semester or so, but again, I would encourage you to do that. And again, create that writing, reading, and scheduling. Make sure that that's done. There are a lot of technological tools out there as well, like Grammarly is a good opportunity to, or is a helpful tool. You oftentimes your word processing program will have spell check or grammar proofs, but nothing really is going to beat the human factor. So I want to encourage you to make sure to enlist proofreaders in that. All right. So let me talk a little bit about your expectations, the self-expectation you put on. One, always have flexibility. Things happen. They change. They'll change for you personally, and they'll change in the world around you. They'll change for your instructor. They'll change for your class. So have some flexibility. Don't set such high expectations that you can't reach them. I think this is one of the things that is really important, especially if you're just starting out in studies, whether the asynchronistic or synchronistic. It's really important that you not set expectations that you can't reach. So start small so that when you reach them, you can make them larger, or you can increase your expectation. So on that, don't plan to fail. And you say, who plans to fail? Well, people who don't plan, right? Don't plan that you can't do this, but know that you, in the Lord and through the Lord, can do it. And so specifically, plan to succeed. Make sure that you do make a plan for you to succeed. And then again, remember to trust God in this process. And I realize that really is number one on this. But again, I put it here so that you continually remember, trust God in the process. And then know that he is doing something good and has called you here for a reason. And again, you're not here by mistake. It's on purpose. All right. Finally, I know that we do have this interesting thing that's because we have COVID, we have what is called the CAP schedule. And this CAP schedule is available to you on the web and also in your Blackboard sign-in page. Okay, so there's two places that it's available to you that you can look at. I want to say that if we do go through a quarantine, like what we're starting out with right now, where we're saying, okay, we're, until the 25th, there's nobody on ground, we stay in the same cycle. So if week 1, yellow was to be on ground, week 2, purple, then if we're in week 3, when we come back, it's yellow again, okay? So you just remember that cycle just remains the same, and wherever we're at, if there's a quarantine or if there's something where we pull back for a time, whatever course color was to be on ground, it will be the one, it will not be the one to be on ground the next week, okay? So we just stay with the cycle. Now, those were kind of the questions I was asked to address, and again, I hope in my delivery there, even though I realized that there was a number of different things I was trying to address, I hope that it was somewhat helpful. I know a lot of it was very simplistic, and I do apologize for that. Again, I didn't mean to be to underestimate you. I know that you're here, and much of this you've already thought of, but I do want to encourage you to remember these basic things so that they'll help you step forward into what's next. So Alika, that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Saunders. I think that was great. As I was just sharing earlier with everyone, and those who will watch later, sometimes we just need to go back to basics, even spiritually, like we have those core basics. And sometimes it's a little funny to hear, but we need that to be reminded of, how do I need to restructure my foundation? Are there any gaps? So we appreciate you sharing what you did. And funny enough, Dr. Saunders, what you share is a lot of what we share and what we talk about. And so it's so nice having it from a faculty member so our students can hear that and hear it is simple, and that's okay. And so we appreciate everyone as well. So thank you, Dr. Saunders. We're just going to open it up for a moment to hear from Morgan. She is, again, one of our peer tutors, and she has some additional insights that I think just accurately reflect even what Dr. Saunders was saying, and she's a student. So Morgan, I'll just open it up for you to share for a few minutes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Saunders. That was so amazing. And it's just nice to hear from our professors about just their perspective on students doing online school. It's nice to hear that you guys see us and you know what we're going through, and you know everything. So it's just great to hear it from you. So he covered a lot, and there's not really anything else that I can say, but one thing I will say that has helped me in my online school, and I've done online classes every semester while being at TKU. They're a great platform. But one thing I will say is getting into that weekly rhythm has helped me so much. So what I mean by that is, for majority of your online classes, especially those 7-week accelerated courses, they're very regimented, and you have weekly assignments due that you can count on. So what has helped me is looking at that through my syllabus and maybe talking to the professor about what they kind of see the week looking like for their classes, and then like taking a look at that, and then building my schedule and my weekly rhythm around those assignments. So I'll just kind of give you a taste of what my weeks normally look like. So Mondays are for reading and watching lectures, or basically just learning days. So I'm watching any videos that the professor posts. I'm making sure that I'm checking up on Blackboard and looking over the week and planning ahead, seeing that I'm getting everything done that I need to get done for this week. So, and then Tuesdays, a lot of times you have those discussion boards due. So Tuesdays are for working on discussion boards and looking over weekly assignments that will be due, like papers or anything like that, and just planning ahead for those. And Wednesdays will be much of the same. So discussion boards, finishing that first post, and begin those weekly assignments. And then Thursdays through Sundays is finishing up everything. So finish those weekly assignments, respond on the discussion board posts, and then begin reading for the next week. I loved what Dr. Saunders said about that reading schedule. That has helped me so much. Knowing that Sundays and Mondays are my reading days has really helped me stay with those reading, because they can build up, especially if you miss a week, then you have another 100 pages that you have to read. So getting those done really helps me. And a lot of professors actually expect you to finish your reading before the lectures that week. So they want you to have all of your reading done before they even begin to talk about the material. So having the weekend and that Monday really helps me just get ready for the lectures and make sure that I'm up to speed on everything. So one thing that I do always suggest to students, in order to get into that weekly rhythm, you need a calendar or a planner to help you. So I love the physical planners. They just help ease my mind a little bit so I can get everything onto paper. And I actually have like a planning day in my week as well, which is kind of, kind of overachiever, but on Sunday nights, I really like to look over my week and plan out everything that I need to do. And I do that by creating like a master to-do list. Making lists helps ease my mind too. So I put everything down on paper, everything I need to do, and then I schedule each of those items towards onto like a specific time during the day. Like 7 to 8 on Monday night is when I'm going to read chapter 1, that kind of thing. And so that helps me know when I need to finish an item, and it helps me honor that commitment that I made to myself, so that I stay on track. And then, like Dr. Saunders said again, reach out to professors. They want to see you succeed as much as you want to succeed. So make sure that you are in communication with them. And then go to tutoring if you need help. So Student Success Center, just a little shameless plug, we're here for you. We want to help you. So make sure that you reach out to us if you have any questions or need help with anything. We can look over your papers, and we offer peer-reviewed papers. So we can do that for you. And then one final thing that I thought of that might be helpful at the end of the semester, just take a look back and reflect on the semester. See if that class schedule worked for you. Was it too much? Was it too little? How did those online classes feel? This is a little bit different of a time because we're having to pivot so much. So give yourself grace, but also make sure that you are setting yourself up for success in the future, and really knowing your strengths, where your strengths lie, and making sure that you sign up for the right classes that work for you. So yeah, that's all I have, but best of luck to all of you in your online classes this year.
So good, thank you, Morgan. And I actually have a question for you, Morgan, and Dr. Saunders. Both of you guys can tag along into this, but I'm just thinking about a student who maybe they're just a bit overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with, in general, just life, trying to balance that out, but now they're, not that they can't do the work, but they're just stuck in this place of being overwhelmed because of different things coming into their life and being online and kind of some of those pressures. What would just be your takeaway advice to a student who finds themselves in that way, where they're just stuck in the weeds of every day? I'm putting y'all on the spot.
Yeah, no, I love that question, because I can't tell you how many times I found myself there, especially, Morgan, I love what you said about getting in the rhythm of the coursework. The first 2 weeks for me, when I was in graduate school online, I was buried, and I could not think of a way out of it, and so in those first 2 weeks is when I began to step back and schedule the things we've talked about, when I began to set back and schedule and say, I need to be at this point by this point in the course so that, you know, I know what it is that, so that I can get, you know, a grip on what's going on. So one, I think scheduling is, again, comes into play there. But two, I think trying to, as Morgan mentioned about the rhythm, give yourself some time to find that pace. Because I never, you know what, I don't know whether this is just me or whether it's something that is, you know, some embarrassing quirk, but I never found that pace until the second week. And it was usually towards the end of that second week that I found, okay, I finally got a rhythm. I'm into the rhythm of the course. And before that, it was so frustrating and so overwhelming. So, you know, I was trying to move all these pieces and trying to make them fit because I was working full time and I was doing this graduate studies. So I would one, be patient with yourself, because it may be that you'll be the same way, that it'll be the second or third week before you'll say, I know how this is gonna play out. But also in that you may need to, in your organization, you may need to be a little bit more determined about having the time and protecting that time to get your studies done. Morgan, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've actually found as well, it takes me like 2 weeks to actually find a feel for the course and what my week is going to look like with that. One thing I would say that has helped me when I'm feeling super stressed and anxious and just overwhelmed, you know, we all can get like that, but one thing that has helped me is letting myself feel that and like giving myself, I don't know, like an hour to where I can just think about it, process it, like say that, you know, this isn't fun. I don't like doing this. And it's okay to say that life isn't fun sometimes, but then we do have to do the work. So, you know, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and ask God for help. You're going to be okay. You just have to keep going and do one thing at a time. I found that like when I get overwhelmed, it's because I'm looking at too many things all at the same time. So I have to take one step at a time, and what can I do today that will help me, you know, have a better day tomorrow to where I don't get as overwhelmed.
Thank you for that. That's really good and encouraging. Kind of what we need, just these simple reminders as we're reacclimating this semester. And I think just in general, we're all having a myriad of things that we're reacclimating to and trying to find a new sense of normal. And that takes a minute. And I think that's okay. So I appreciate all of you hopping on and for what you're sharing. And thank you, Dr. Saunders. He hopped from class to then just sharing some value and nuggets with all of us today.